Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's chat. We'll just give it a few more minutes until so people can come online here. My name's Mr Calvert. I'm one of the assistant head teachers at Ilkley Grammar School, and it'll be me that's doing all the presenting this evening. I do have some other staff in the background that will help on the chat bar. I've got Mr Leeming, who's the current head of Year 7, who'll be head of Year 8 next year. I've got Mrs Walsh, who will be head of Year 7 next year, someone that will be really important in everybody's lives. And I've also got Mrs Varley, who's our student support and transition manager for Year 7 as well. And then I've also got a new appointment for us. I'll explain his role later, but that's Mr Willett, who is the Year 7 Prexel. So I can see that the numbers of viewers are starting to climb, so people are starting to join us. It's quite interesting, and I do hope this presentation finds you very, very well. It's not nearly as scripted as the usual presentations that you see from school. It's quite informal. It works well. We did it last year. Parents seem to like it. Just a few ground rules if you want to, really. There is a chat bar. It is open. I will do what I can to try and adjust the presentation as we go on, and try and answer those questions as we go. But I've also got staff in the background that can answer them as well. If there are any questions that are really important for individual students or whatever, please can you use the transition@ilkleygs.co.uk email address, and again we'll get back to you as soon as we possibly can. So this evening's presentation was really there's 3 of them, and I will do more if people find them useful. This one was about sort of teaching, learning and organisation of the school. Obviously when you start at a high school, the organisation at a high school is very different to a primary school. It's a much bigger organisation, and young people that are coming in, I hope some of them are watching this evening, because it would be really, I can't wait to meet you all, you know, and hopefully with the 15 months that we've all been through, you know, I do really look forward to some normality in September when we can actually start running assemblies and so on. What I will try and do is give you a flavour of what the school is like normally, but also in the situation that we're in this year as well, because as you know, all schools have been you know, hit quite hard with restrictions within the school, and you know, we've had to adapt our routines, not least me sitting here and you know, almost like a, you know, not quite a YouTube influencer, but you know, I have done this a few times now, and you know, this presentation will be recorded and put on to the YouTube channel, so you can watch it at your leisure, really. So if you have, you know, if you can't watch it live here, and that's the beauty of this YouTube platform, really. So what I wanted to start with really is just about how the school kind of is organised now, and you may well have heard about the Moorlands Learning Trust, and I was wanting to start there really, because that is something that is new for our school. We've only been 18 months or so as a learning trust, and there is another school within our trust, which is a Skipton Academy, and Miss Helen Williams, who was the head teacher last year, is now the CEO of that trust, and obviously supports both schools with a team of other staff who are the board of trustees and other staffs that work across the trust. And we do send some of our staff and transfer our, you know, exceptional learning and skill across to the Skipton Academy, and their staff come over to us as well, and we're sharing that, and we're almost part of the same team, really. So that's the sort of top layer of the Moorlands Learning Trust. And then obviously Ilkley Grammar School has its own head teacher, Mrs Pennell, who we did the presentation to, and it was quite a tricky presentation, that one we did in April. And you know, looking back on it, it was one of those things where I almost too much myself, present and produce the evening, and it didn't quite work out. What gave me some heart though afterwards though was the day after I was on a presentation with the DFE, and the same thing happened to the Secretary of State. He was on mute for some time as well. So you know, these things happen. We're living in a world we never wanted to live in, I suppose, really, but we've got to make the best of it. And our head teacher's really clear on that we want to make, you know, the very best of the situation we're in, not just now, but going forward as well, and making sure that, you know, your children get the very best educational outcomes that we possibly can do. And I'll come on to teaching and learning a bit later in the presentation. Once you've got the head teacher, just underneath that are 3 deputy head teachers. Miss Clawton, who's the head of teaching and learning, the deputy head responsible for teaching and learning. And then we also have Miss Bishop, who is more to do with pastoral care. And then we've got Mr Gutch, who is the post-16 director, if you like, the deputy head for post-16. And they all have bigger remits than that, but that's basically their main role. And then we've a number of assistant head teachers, myself, who is responsible for Key Stage 3. I'm the safeguarding lead. We have Miss Capstick, who is primarily learning, but also supports the Learning Trust as well, and does a lot of learning across the entire trust. And then we've also got our Senko, who is very important to anyone who has additional needs coming into school, who is Mr Keane. He's an assistant head teacher as well. Mrs Mackenzie, who is the groups, so looked after children and 1 or 2 of the groups, and really helps us with progress. And then we've also got a couple of what are called, they're not teachers, but they are on the leadership team. And we've got a director of Key Stage 4, who is Mrs Hepworth, and then also our operations director, Mrs Leach. So it's a fairly big leadership team, but we do have approaching 2,000 children on site, so it's a pretty big organisation. I always say we're the biggest organisation in Ilkley by some way. You know, there's certainly the amount of people that work for us, you know, nearly approaching 300 staff, and as I said, almost 1,900 children as well. And then with such a big organisation, it is really important that we break it right down, and that's the way the school is organised, so every child can feel part of such a big organisation. And obviously the first breakdown really is in year group. And your children will be in the silver tie cohort. They will have a head of year, who is Mrs Walsh, supported by Mrs Varley, who's a student support transition manager just for year 7. And then a number of other people that help out as well. Mr Willett, who is what's called a Prexel, which is a bit of an acronym for a progress leader. So he, progress and experience leader, sorry, and he works really closely with the young people and the year team to really push that progress on and help with any intervention that might be required going forward as the year goes. And he's also responsible for supporting what we call personal best time, which I will talk about in a little while. And then underneath that are 11 tutors. So there are 11 tutor groups. There are 3, as I sit here now, there are 318 children coming for us in the year 7 cohort, which is quite a big number, bigger than most schools probably across the country. And certainly I've been at Ilkley Grammar School for some time, and that number just seems to get increasing because of the popularity of the area that you all live in, but also the popularity and success of the school as well. And it's absolutely great that we can be a local school for local children, and really push their achievement forward and make sure that they're ready to leave us in either 5 years' time or 7 years' time, whether they join us in a 6th form, in order to be the very best that they can be. Those 11 tutor groups are broken down into 3 bands, and that bands, they're either I band, G band or S band. There's obviously slightly different numbers in each tutor groups in each band, and that's mainly from an organisational point of view. One of the things that we have asked you to do, if there is some of the bands do Spanish and some do French, so it's important that we get you into the right band if there is a very specific reason that you want to learn either Spanish or French as the modern foreign language that you do. But it also is useful for competition and PE purposes as well, where they do interband competitions and so on. So that's why we break them down, and it does give them a little bit more identity. But I suppose the biggest identity they have is with their tutor group, and their tutor group in year 7 is really important. And I just wanted to explain right now how we organise that. Currently, what we're doing is collecting a huge amount of data from yourselves, from the primary schools, obviously, and our staff are going out to do the road shows. At the same time, they're meeting the Year 6 staff and collecting data on the young people that are joining us. And obviously we absolutely rely on that input, particularly in this year where there'll be no SATs results, as there was last year. There was no SATs either. It's really important that we gain from those primary schools the levels of ability and attainment that the children have, and also the friendships and so on that work as well. The way it doesn't work, and I think the way that some people think it works, is obviously turning 318 children into 11 tutor groups. We don't use the sorting hat like they do in Harry Potter and just pick them out of the air. We actually use a really complicated software program called Limicom, but we also look past that as well. Once that's done the original, the initial breaking down for us of making sure that there's balance in gender, in ability, and so on, SEN and so on, make sure that there's balance across the tutor groups, then we put in the additional detail into there with regards to language choice, if it's appropriate, and obviously the friendships as well that we've been asked to do. And I know some of you have done that already and passed those through to us. We will get the same sort of detail from the primary schools as well, and they will largely match, and we will make sure that everyone has at least one person that they consider a friend in their tutor group. But the way I really want to, and I do really press this with the young people when they come, I'm a big believer that this is a real opportunity for people to find their best friend. And actually, I always start if I can do a presentation to them in September, live or even remotely, I will say to them, because it's actually lovely to see them all 318 jammed into B Hall. But when you see them all there in their own the same school uniform, I always tell them that their best friend is in this room, and at this point they might not know who that is, because we do have children that come as the only one from a primary school, and it's really important for them that they feel part of this group, because obviously they don't have a friend all the time, and they've got to really seek a friend. But also, and I think as adults you can reflect on it yourself. I certainly reflect on it myself. My best friend, I never knew him until I was in year 7, first year as it was called then, a long time ago. And I met him, and 35 years later we're still very best of friends. In fact, I was talking to him not more than half an hour ago. So we do try and make sure that, yes, you're bringing a friends and bringing friendships from primary school, but there's also real opportunities to forge new friendships and new relationships with people. And my knowledge of the way year 7 changed is that over time they tend to initially stay with their people that they know, but very quickly they get to if you speak to some year 7s even now, friend. And I think that's the way that we want that the children know that there's opportunity in these tutor groups as well. And I think there's also trust in the system from parents' point of view as well, that yes, we've done everything we can to make these things work, and we've a massively successful year 7 this year, who had a very broken up transition period, as you all have a very different transition period as you all have, and it's important, I suppose, to really drill that into the young people to look for opportunities. And I know actually, I know enough about the Valley to know that many of the children already know other children from other schools because of the myriad of sports and activities that go on throughout the year. So there'll be a lot of friendly faces there. And I just want everybody to kind of sing from that same hymn, if you don't mind. I'm just going to pause there for a second, just if there's any questions about tutor groups. The one thing I do need to say is when we will let you know, we'll let you know sometime in July. There's obviously an awful lot of processing of information to do in order to get it right. It does take us time to organize them, cross and cross check them. We actually send them back to the primary schools and just say, give us one last look at this, just check that this is okay for you before we release it to you. We would normally do that on the welcome day. As I said in the letter recently, the welcome day was kind of, we got a message from the government to say that welcome days are okay, but the detail is still quite, I'm still going through that detail to look how easy that would be and whether it's actually feasible to run in order to preserve obviously COVID security and everything else. So I will make a decision on that before the next presentation next Thursday, and I will let you know then. But what we did last year is actually we wrote a letter personally to all of the children and the parents to say which tutor group they were in, and make sure that you're ready to go and start with us in September. So if we, if the welcome day, isn't going to be feasible, then we will obviously fall back to that position. I'm still looking into the detail about the welcome day. Any questions, anybody? I'm surprised we've not got any at the minute, but I've got Mrs. Varley's online, so I can see, is anybody struggling with the presentation? Has anybody got any questions at all? Okay, what I am hoping is that it is actually working, the chat function on here. If anyone's got any questions, just that it's okay, it's working, that would be great for me to know, because I'm in isolation in my own house here. So anyway, I will press on if there's no questions. Maybe I'm just doing such a good job of explaining things, or maybe, that it's gone. It's nice to see so many like, right, it's testing. Thanks, Mr. Edwards. That's absolutely great. Thank you very much. It is working. So any questions, just push them through. I can see them and I can answer them as we go. So it's all very clear. Thanks, Mr. Lepley. That's great. I know it's working. It's one of those things with these technical things. Sometimes you don't quite know when you're sat in isolation. The amount of people that were telling me on mute last time, I didn't see one of it. So there we go. But it is working fine. So just to pick up where we were there, so I've gone through the organisation of the school, and obviously it's a very big organisation, but broken down into manageable chunks really, so everybody can feel part of the school, and that is really important. And I just wanted to touch on communication as well, with regards to how you would communicate with school. Because I think that that's part of the organisation that parents want to know. What we will do is, once we know the tutors, and obviously when I decide whether welcome they can go ahead or not, then we will. Mr. Shaw, I'll talk about iPads shortly. Okay, I'll explain that in a second. Okay, just once we've. Just the communication is very, very important, and I think parents want to have that contact with someone, and the key person at the first point of call is the tutor really. And what we did last year, the tutors all did a little sound bite for us and introduced themselves and who they are, so the young people can see them. And again, we put them on the YouTube channel. If you want to look at last year's, they're still there in the green tie cohort, but there'll be a similar group. It's a number of the year 11 tutors who have currently year 11 finished their last maths exam today, so they're looking forward to picking up a year 7 form. And we've got some new staff joining us as well who I haven't even met yet, but it will be a band of 11 tutors led by Mrs. Walsh, and we'll make sure that you know who they are, and they're the really first point of contact. We do have a kind of we really do have an open communication policy, and please ring in, please email in. We'll make sure that we get back to you. We can't always get back to you within the day. We have a kind of 2-day kind of limit really on our speed of response, but it is often faster than that. If it's an emergency or something that you really do need an answer on quickly, then you've obviously also got Mrs. Walsh and Mrs. Varley, and Mrs. Walsh's entire job is running Key Stage. Is running. I was going to say my job there. Key Stage running year 7, and Mrs. Varley's there for. So you have 2 designated people who are there working closely with the entire Year 7 team to make sure that they can answer any questions they got. And they're both very experienced staff as well. So please contact us when you need things as we get started. It's important that you feel that you can have your questions answered, and we'll do everything we can to get back to you within the day, if not the very next day. Yeah, you're quite right, Mrs. Walsh. You're not quite the head of Key Stage 3 yet, but you've got real potential to be. Okay. And then just the curriculum kind of is, teaching and learning. I mean, I've got a few things on my sheet here. It's clearly the priority. Well, I mean, I would say making happy, healthy children is very, very important as well. And certainly in my role as safeguarding lead, they've got to make sure they're in a safe and welcoming environment as well. But obviously, if once you've preserved that and made that, really the most important thing is that the children come to school to learn, to get the outcomes, to become those exceptional citizens that we want them to be as well. And they do grow an awful lot. I was chatting to some Year 11 as they were leaving today, and they had their yearbook, and they were going, "Mr. Calvert, you've not changed at all." And I said, "Yeah, but look at you. I've got a little fatter, to be fair, but they have changed an awful lot from being young Year 11s, 11-year-olds up to 16-year-olds as they're leaving us now today. The children change an awful lot, and we work very, very hard to make sure that the children are in a safe and nurturing environment. And I will talk about that in the next session in a little bit more detail. But just on to teaching and learning, we have a mantra across the school, a buzzword, if you like, a buzz sequence of personal best. And that was developed a number of years ago, but it really, encapsulates what Ilkley Grammar School is about, where we make sure that the children do really get pushed and encouraged to do their very, very best in every subject, in every lesson that they do. And we always say to them, every lesson counts. Attendance is very, very important at secondary school. It's really important that that you aim for that 97% target of attendance across all the time that they're at school, but certainly in Year 7, 8, and 9, when they're in Key Stage 3 with me, we have a 97% target, and in 2 of the year groups we're actually exceeding that target this year, despite the year we've had, which is incredible. So just really make sure that it's kind of cruel to be kind in a way, but please do send them in if they've got a bit of a sniffle and so on, and that sort of thing. We will monitor things as best we possibly can. Obviously, COVID is very, very different, and we're all aware of that, and there's rules and routines with that. But certainly, your day-to-day colds and not feeling too well or whatever, try and get them in, because every day really does matter. To underpin the sort of teaching and learning, and the way teaching and learning is broken down in Year 7, most of their lessons are taught within the tutor group. And in fact, where absolutely possible, their tutor will be one of their teachers, because that helps to forge the link between them as well. And Mrs. Pennell tries to organise that. But they have specialist teachers as well for all of their lessons. So specialist English teachers, specialist maths teachers, specialist science teachers. And as it stands at the minute, we move to them. That's the way it's arranged in COVID times. But under normal circumstances, they move into specialist classrooms. So if they were coming to me as a science teacher, they come into a science lab, and clearly that's not quite worked out as well this year. But hopefully next year things will be released a bit more in schools, and we can get the children moving around, not least to save our shoe leather, because the staff have been putting in there. You don't need to, if you've got your watch on, you do plenty of steps. If you're a teacher now, we want to transfer a little bit of that over to the young people and get them to move around and make sure they get access to those specialist lessons as well. So within the curriculum in Year 7, for everything apart from maths, this is in the normal circumstances, for everything apart from maths, PE and technology, they're taught as a tutor group in mixed ability. That's the way it works through. What we did this year with regards to because we didn't have and I think it's likely to happen again, even with regards to maths, we actually taught maths as mixed ability to start with as well, because of the absence of a of a validated grade from a SAT result and so on, we obviously need to make sure that we've got children in the right sets before we move. So we have started to move towards that this year through year 7 and move through the gears from a mere mixed ability class to a SETI class in maths. But it does help to forge the link in the tutor group together as a team. We only do that for year 7. Once they get into year 8, more flexibility, so they move into sets in English and maths and science. So it is something that changes, and we find that works well to keep them, first of all, getting on with the tutor group, feeling really nurtured within that tutor group, but also as part of a year 7 team as well, and they can see people who are their same age without giving them massive exposure to to the big wide school as such, and they can work together and get on and so on. But again, it works very, very well. That so. As I said, there's a few unknowns with there because of the COVID situation. I'm kind of hoping we can move to a bit more normality and that children do move around. And one of the questions that children always have: what if I get lost? And to be honest, that doesn't happen half as much as they think it will. We show them around on their first few days, and once they've done one cycle of the timetable, then they soon get used to the rooms that they're in. And obviously this year they've not had to do that because they stay in the classroom and we move to them. So we're going to need to get year 8 used to moving around as well. So it'll be fine. It always is fine. Something just triggered in my mind there. Actually, was something I was going to say. What was I going to say? I'll move on. So just to underpin a few of those things there are what's called effort grades, and again they're available on the website, but they're what we try and do is within the work that we give the children, we always try and give them an effort grade, not just a grade for their ability, but how well they've tried. It goes back to the sort of personal best mantra that you may find something very, very hard and not get a great grade on it, but you've actually put a huge amount of effort into it. And you can do that by the effort grades, and they go excellent, good, insufficient and poor. Now again, it's that boundary between the good and excellent that is something that we really try and get the children to understand, because it's interesting with regards to the children's understanding. What we want to try and avoid is a bit of coasting, really, and you can maintain in the good section, but in order to get up into that excellent section, you've really got to go that additional mile. You've got to do those extra things. You've got to get onto the extension work. You've got to have gone do a little bit more research. You've got to have done something that's slightly different to everyone else. That's how you get those excellent grades, and that just gives everyone the opportunity at all levels to really move through and understand how they go. And you'll see that we call it EGIP as such, or EGIP. You'll see those on the marking of the work that you get back as we get through the year. And then just to underpin that even further, we have a system called class charts, which we've had for I think 4 years now, maybe possibly 5. It's an excellent system. It's a reward and sanctioning system, really. For year 7, it's mainly a rewarding system. And what happens, myself as a teacher, if someone does something in class that deserves an award or a reward, we just give it a quick push of a button. They get a copy of that reward on the iPad, and you get a copy at home, because you can download the parent sort of portal on it, and you can see what the children are doing at school. So that comes straight through to you. You can turn the notifications off, so it's not bothering you at work or at homework like we are now. But you can leave those on, and actually it's really great for the children to come home. I have an 8-year-old boy at home, and I often get, what have you done at school today? Nothing, don't know. And then actually I only get a certificate at the end of the term to realise that he's actually done all right. You'll get it every day, and you'll be able to have those conversations, because the staff tend to write a little, short paragraph about what the children have done and what they've got it for, so you can reinforce that message at home and be positive praise with them as well. Obviously, on the other flip side of the coin, it also tells you when they've done things wrong at school as well, and it also monitors our detentions and 1 or 2 other things as well. And then the other thing it does is it also allows you to see the home learning too. So if we give them homework, as it's called, home learning as it is now, if we give them some work to do at home, then that goes on to the class chart system. And again, you can see what needs to get done, when it needs to get handed in, how long it should take. And then when they do hand it in, you'll also see that they've handed it in on time. If they don't do it, they don't hand it in, then you'll see the flip side of the sanctions as well. It's worked really, really well. Once we get the children up and running and we get them onto it, we'll send an email out with you with your link as parents. It doesn't matter how many, everyone you can use this. It's a different email address for each parent, but everyone uses the same code for their child. So both parents can see it. You can both have it on your phone, or one parent, whatever, can have it on their phone. And work things through like that, so you can, support things, and it's worked really, really well. Okay, so I'm just looking at the chat bar there. It's Mrs. Varley sorting that out there. So that whole idea of the children doing their very, very best in class, working their way through their work, getting their rewards for it, learning from their mistakes. Again, in the first presentation I'll do for them, learning is about making mistakes. You learn from the mistakes that you make. You can get better by doing the same thing over and over and over again. But actually, if you make a mistake and adjust things to alter things slightly, you can get much better at something by just making that initial mistake and altering things. And again, we work on the children with that. The iPad, I've just noticed a few questions coming through with regards to the iPad. The iPad is kind of integral to the school now. I mean, I was at the school when the iPad first came in. It was big news then. I think we're into the 12th year, I think, might be 11 years of us having an iPad in school, and the whole iPad system has changed an awful lot, and the children have become far better at using them. It gives us a big opportunity to extend the learning in all sorts of different ways, really. I mean, the things that we do in school are fabulous with regards to just communication, making sure that we have groups working together, and then obviously also the link at school, from school to home as well. I will talk a little bit more about the iPad security and how it works and so on in the last session, because it is a little bit of something that I just need to clarify a few details with the IT team before I do that. But for me, the children that have been with them now, and work through the school, they see an iPad just as a piece of working equipment, really. And one thing we do try and get the Year 7s to use is to see, because many of them have their own devices anyway, but what we tend to do is to actually use the iPad as a learning device. And that's why we do have certain restrictions on them, to make sure that the children can see it as a learning device and not just as something that they play on, because actually learning with a device such as an iPad is actually a bit more complicated than actually playing on one, to be honest. And it allows us to learn all the time as well, and I think that's a healthy environment for the children to be in, as well as ourselves. Okay, listen, I'm just running to the end of this, so I'm just going to pause for a second. I've got a few more. I didn't want to talk for too long. I've got a few more just things to say to you, please. There are a handful of you that haven't returned, told us about your preference for the iPad at the minute. So if you are one of those people, please could you go onto the portal and please could you fill it in, even if you're using your own device or you've chosen to use one or whatever in a different way or whatever, that's absolutely fine. But please would you let us know, because Mrs. Varley will need to ring everybody, because the way we're having to procure such a big number of iPads in the current situation, we want to make sure that if you do want us to procure one for you and be part of the scheme as such, then we want to make sure that we've got one for that first day that they arrive. And that will be the day that they actually get their iPad on that first day, because it needs to be set up on one thing or another. And then from me, the next session is next Thursday, same time. next Thursday on the 17th. I'll be looking a little bit more about the support in school, what happens if things go wrong, and just about kind of safety. I'll probably throw something in about the iPads into that one as well, because it kind of all does link together. So, I mean, I'm happy to stay on here for a few minutes if you want to just buzz any questions through. I'll do my best to answer them. Please just fire them through there. I can see we've got a few. I don't think we've missed any at all. I think we've managed to mop up the ones about the iPads there. So listen, I do hope you find this useful. You know, it's important that you get these, you know, messages really and start getting a flavour of how Ilkley Grammar School runs. We are obviously looking at having a obviously having a welcome meeting, but again, it's likely that that will be a remote. So, you know, we'll be back to Teams and so on. So, yeah, sorry, Mr. L. Regards to setting in Year 7. So let me just confirm that. Okay, so all subjects are taught in tutor group, okay, except for, under normal circumstances, maths, okay, for setting purposes, and PE for gender purposes, and technology for numbers purposes. That's what we do normally. This year we haven't set in maths either, so the children have been taught in mixed ability for every subject apart from their split in PE and technology for gender purposes or for number purposes. Okay, so that's how it works. So if I can keep it as simple as that, what we would normally do, mixed ability for everything other than maths, PE and technology. This year we've tried to do everything, and because we've tried to keep everything in tutor group apart from PE and technology, obviously because of numbers and going outside and so on. Does that clear that up for you, Mr. L? Then we've got here, Mrs. Normanton, what happens with dispensatory awards for SEN children if it's with an SEND issue? Sorry, Mr. Normanton, I'm not quite sure what you mean with regards to dispensary awards for SEND children. So you mean if the do you regards to the iPad? I'm not sure what you mean there, Mrs. Normanton. If you buzz us an email in with a bit more detail into well, I'm sure we can answer what you mean by that. Do the children follow different sorts of PE? Just wondering about the gender split. Yeah, all sorts of PE. We are looking as a school with regards to, you know, the diversification really and gender and so on. You know, so it's a big news, and it's been something that we've tried to do. But, you know, with regards to that, there is, you know, we've tried to break down the barriers as best we possibly can. You know, there's a girls football team, there's a girls rugby team, there's, you know, we try and break, you know, have mixed ability, and we are looking at whether there can be more mixed options as well. And they do separate sports as such. And you know, primarily it's down boy-girl lines, moreover for sort of changing purposes as well as anything else. But we are really looking at that, and the PE team are very, very open to it. So in the time that your child is with us, I think things will change. Is my view. But I hope that answers it. Listen, with regards to the PE team, you know, the exceptional team and the amount of extracurricular sport that is on after school. We have very close links with the Ben Lidding sports clubs, and also the Ilkley Rugby Club as well, and the local cricket clubs and so on. So we have very, very good links with them, and make sure that we feed their teams, they feed our teams. So we do try and work through to that. Oh, discipline. Sorry, right. Okay, Mr. Normanton, I've got it now. So you mean on class charts? Okay, yeah. There's always, with regards to class charts, I mean, the staff are professional enough the professional staff are aware that there needs to be, you know, additional need. Children need things being adjusted for them, reasonable adjustments being made for their needs, and that happens. So to be honest, with regards to year 7, all we tend to be doing, you know, for 99% of them is rewards. You know, we give out an enormous number of rewards that do build up into different certificates and so on. But there's always reasonable adjustments made in everything that we do with the children, not least the rewards and sanctions system, but also in teaching and learning as well. Yeah, Mrs. Stacey, there isn't in my household either with regards to girls' sports and boys' sports. No, I agree. I absolutely agree. I'm wholeheartedly with you. I agree. It's just we do have a boys' team and a girls' team and so on. You know, I mean, I certainly don't want to get tied up in that. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Children should be allowed to play whichever sports they like, wholeheartedly. It's just it's tricky to organise sometimes. Could you please provide us with more information about your system of letting parents know what's happening in school? I mean, regarding the children's achievements and failures. Achievement, yeah, successes, okay. Yeah, it's called Class Charts. If you want to have a look, maybe Sue can post a link to the Class Charts website if you wanted to have a look. Sue, if you wouldn't mind doing that for me, just sending the link to people. But if you do have a look on the school website as well, it does explain how Class Charts works. Class Charts is an online system. All the staff have it on their laptop. As we're teaching, we press a button, we type a little thing, it gives a child a reward or it gives them a sanction. That goes through to the child's iPad so they can see it. It also goes through to your phone at home if you've logged into the portal, and you can see it as well. Those rewards build up. You can see them working through things, and you can you know, see them developing and getting better at things. And also if there's any sanctions for whatever reason, you can see those as well. Like I say, I think we're on something like 98% positive in year 7. So we're doing incredibly well, and I would expect that for any year 7. In fact, it's very similar in 8 and 9, to be honest. The vast majority of the children get nothing more than rewards, and then the very odd sanction when they do something slightly wrong. You know, that's the way it works. Okay. Mr. Edwards, is the reason for only using iPads as opposed to other tutor units basically because of the setup of the school? We're going back a long time there, Mr. Edwards. I mean, it's maybe something that I can probably discuss with you then last session, really. I can explain why we use the iPad. But in a nutshell, we did look at other options. We continue to look at other options. And obviously, it was the Gold Star device a number of years ago. But actually, you know, it's just the functionality that it allows you, and the apps as well, and obviously also the you know, you're quite right with regards to the setup in school as well. You know, it is something that we've looked long and hard at, and it just gives, you know, it's the best device for what we need it to do. I appreciate it's not the cheapest by any stretch of the imagination. Mrs. Normanton, yeah, once we release the tutor groups, it will also have the band on, which will have the colour on as well. So if you can just hold off for us for that. I'll explain in the any other business one. I think it's the 22nd of June. Yeah, I've chosen that date because it's after Johnson is due to tell us whether we're out of lockdown. So I might have a few more details then. Okay. Listen, I've done 43 minutes there, everybody, and I do hope you've found it useful. I'll continue to stay on here and answer any questions there are, but I'm going to, you know, I'll answer the last few questions here if there are any more last ones that are coming through. If not, I will end the stream. As I said, this will be on online for anyone else to watch it who didn't join us this evening. Okay. I'll just hang around for a few more minutes and then I'll end the stream. Any final questions? Remember, there are 2 more sessions, so if the things that pop up, please push them through to IGS.co.uk or wait for one of the next sessions, and I'm sure we can answer them then. So next session will be on support and how we organise a school with regards to that. And then the last one will be on any other business, but iPads and 1 or 2 final details before we start in September. Okay. Right. Okay, everybody, I'm going to end it there. Thanks very much for your time. Enjoy your evening. Thank you.